Mark, you should have it.
To Finland.
Okay, guys.
That'll last for like 10 seconds.
Hey! You too, Mike.
Thank you.
Let's get started. Any new buses? I do see one. Stand up and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Kevin Berry. I played at CU Boulder for 4 years and took the course in February and getting right into it. So it's
Welcome. Karen said you should think about playing again.
I don't know about this guy.
Moving on from Isabel so far. I've been watching all the match reports come out. I've had experience with the team. And a lot of the match reports, have you seen any rosters? And the answer is no. Why? There's no excuse not to have rosters. I talked to Cortez on the way down. He says the roster should actually have CPIPP. There's no excuse for it not to have it. All we have to do is push the button and it's off. So, any more match reports about rosters, you don't get money. If you do it twice, his suggestion is to find you.
He's a hammer dropper.
Because you're opening yourself up to liability if they're not registered. You're opening the other team up to liability. And there's no sense of already going down the tube based on a lawsuit because the player without registration and insurance. Any questions on that, Brian?
Yeah. The high school players, do they have SIP numbers as well?
They have SIP numbers as well.
Okay.
Mark, you can explain how that works.
I have yet to see a roster with SIP numbers.
But how do they register with them?
Oh, so Rugby Colorado registers at the end of the month or at the beginning of the month. So if the team added 3 new players and they get a 30-day grace period-ish. But they didn't get submitted to USA Rugby. So I had a team that didn't have 3 players SIP'd, but they were registered on like the 13th and 11th and 1st or whatever, but they weren't on the USA Rugby site because it was not done till the end of the month. So.
Are we comfortable with that?
So USA Rugby says that they're registered once the SRO, the state Rugby Colorado, registers them.
Okay.
USA Rugby considers them as registered and covers the insurance plan.
Oh, okay.
So they get back covered?
Then
Right
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
So that's
So if they register on the 1st and something happens to them on that evening or the next day, they're covered.
So what do we need to see then?
everything above high school, we have to see a roster with numbers on it. High school.
Well, I don't know where you get numbers from. I mean, they don't.
It's on the website.
What website?
USA website. Polk team is there.
Yeah, but they don't print those out.
What?
No team prints those out. They have some sort of
Well,
other.
at the sideline, the guy can go to his phone, pull it up, write the guys' names down, pull their set numbers and put it on.
As a person who used to coach, it was amazing. You had your roster and you had that printed out, stuck in your folder, and you could write numbers down. It was pretty easy. There's no excuse.
I'm just saying we're not going to get compliance with it. We've done it. We've done it.
So here's the question, if we don't do it, who's gonna pay your legal bill?
We'll get names. We'll get names, but we won't get SIP numbers. We just won't. We'll get rosters. We'll get Tom Coburn, Brian Zapp, Joe Zevin, and if Joe Zevin gets in the bin, then we can go to USA. What I do myself is I go to
Exactly.
I go to
USA Rugby and the guy's not registered, then what do you do?
that's on the team.
Not if the guy in your study.
Oh man.
I mean, if that guy's in the bin or getting red carded because he just put somebody's neck broken, what are you gonna do?
Well, what's going to stop them from just saying somebody's name that is registered, even if it's not that actual person?
That's them falsifying, not you not getting it.
Yeah, that's
There's a big
It's just not going to something. It's going to happen mid-season.
Where does the ownership come off the referee and put it back on the clubs?
He does all what's
You know, it's like, they should be,
Their ownership is they have to, all we have to do is say, give us your roster.
right.
With the
And if they don't give us the roster, we say, well, see you later.
Why don't we just say, give us your roster, all these players have SIP rights? It's out of my hands. I don't wanna sit there 30 minutes before a match and, well, we're not gonna start until you fucking write down all your.
Yeah. And what if it's a touring site like Chicago? I had to write it on the envelope.
In baseball, my other sport,
Yeah, I know.
huh?
Next meeting. Anyway, go ahead.
Equipment upgrades, by the way. What we do is that as umpires, when we show up to the game, we're expected to go there as officials only, not as administrative officers. That's for the association to handle. So I'm just wondering, as referees, are we also administrative, like, officials in this case too?
If we want to agree as a group that we get a list of the players, that's fine. But, Karen?
Well, no, I was gonna say, what might be helpful, and we used to do this in Southern California, is you, obviously before the game, when they confirm it with you, that 2 days before, email them back, and say thank you for the confirmation. By the way, this is just a kind reminder, I will be expecting to get both rosters from both your teams before before the game.
And what happened?
And they turn it in, at least we did, or we said we don't have a game. We need a printed roster, this is your 48-hour notice, we're not having a game unless I get those when I arrive at the field.
And there's no, I mean, that's easy.
But you just have to remind me. like,
Because we have teams trying to say it's a friendly, we don't need it for a friendly.
Oh, you need a
You
period.
need a period.
Rugby, if you're involved in
Rosters,
rugby, you're supposed to be
sure,
CIP
I think it is.
registered. No ifs, ands, or
Well,
buts.
guys, in SIP numbers, if the union wants SIP numbers, they can print it off. What we need as referees, in case there's an incident, is a jersey number. All right, so they can print off a roster of 50 people, but only 23 of them are actually going to play, and you don't know who they are.
No, but
We
they
need
can-
we need jersey numbers next to the name, and we need front row eligible, some sort of demarcation for front row eligible.
Yeah, but Rugby Colorado has open subs, so it's like,
Two
Chris is Joe.
Two issues.
I like your
But
point.
still, it's another step that we can do to help us if when we go to write it up, we don't go to the coach and, oh, yeah, that guy's name was Brian Zapp. Well, Brian Zapp's been on the injured reserve for the last 6 years.
That's what I do. So.
Jersey numbers, we just go to the jersey numbers. And, it's another step for them to
Why don't we try to?
We should be doing that anyway. However, I got contacted on my from a match on Friday, and I doubt that guy was less than organized to make sure that Chaparral is compliant. I mean, that guy couldn't even call me in time, so, we all know, we've been doing this 14 years, and 14 years we say the same thing, and
every year.
we're gonna do it every year, and this is gonna be time, and then we don't ever do it. And then
Well,
half the referees who aren't even here aren't even doing
can
it.
I ask this question?
Yes, be the change
How
you want in the
many-
world.
How many
And,
years did we talk about fitness for national panel referees? Moving in the right direction, and what happened?
Okay, I say we go and hit this at the ball.
And how did we get that to happen? We finally hung to it, and all of a sudden, people started proposing.
Actually, we haven't held to it.
Well, we've come to that.
Karen's suggestion that makes a lot of sense. When you get contacted in time, you remind them about the roster with SIPs and jersey numbers. If you don't get contacted in time, we're getting rid of most of them. We'll be able to remind most of the teams.
Well, make it really easy if you want, I can send it to you or send it to them. Just a draft, like a template, an email that you guys just copy and paste.
Zach
So
had that.
if he has it, right, I know some other,
Well, yeah, create one for us, or,
and then you guys, if you get that contact, just copy and paste or save it in a draft file and then just send it off. And at least you've covered yourself, so if you show up and they don't have it, and normally you're there at a hardcore game, right? Someone runs to the Kinko's or whatever, logs in, prints it off. You say, look, we're not kicking off until we have it. In SoCal, we had a big deal with ropes, that was like the big deal. People had to literally run to Home Depot and set up ropes because we had a lot of fights, that was the issue in SoCal. But
Oh, there was also, I've
we
seen
had to
one
have
report,
ropes, so we would send them to Home Depot and say, get them, we're not kicking off without it.
goalpost pads, no.
oh, you don't have them.
Who did that?
So, I will say like some of the Rugby Colorado games they're friendlies, they don't have posts or pads at all.
Oh,
So what do you
oh,
put?
so-
Yeah. So what do you put? No, the answer is no, they have no pads, so they have no posts, so.
Okay, fair enough.
You need to comment that, do you have any comments?
I knew that, I'm just saying, that's the answer to that.
There is a place you can write.
Yes, there it is. Yeah.
Regulations.
Pat was like t-shirt over it.
That's bad.
Steve Gordon?
No, Duke's playing tonight.
Gore has a nice
No,
email. He has
the East High School has the Monday night freshman sophomore thing.
Okay.
I do have an update from Gore, however, hold on a second.
Gore wouldn't.
He was coaching the east side.
Consider yourself, two things. The first one, consider yourself reminded that, about the solo shot and that you should be using it. And also make sure you check your email and get yourself set up for Dwola, if I'm saying that right. Dwola. Thank you. So that he can pay you more easily and efficiently.
Who's using the solo shot this weekend?
If you don't get rosters, don't bother with Wall.
If you don't get rosters, don't bother with the solo shot. It will focus on you not hitting the roster.
The question on court is, one of the questions is, did you witness the two teams exchanging rosters?
The answer is
That was
no.
for like West playoff, that was like a West thing that had to be a.
But
Yes.
before we leave that, maybe we
I
can
second
start
that.
to change now. I like the idea of Karen's email. I know that Gore has a standard email that he sends, talks about ropes and all that. In the games that I did the last 3 weeks with Glendale, they show up with their USA Rugby printout. They write the number of the guy, jersey, and then we, old school and I, circle the front row eligible guys. And so maybe we could, as a change agent, we can send that email, that link, and then we can start. And then maybe like you say next fall,
Yeah.
we've been doing it since spring. Now we
It's
go.
on the website too somewhere.
I was gonna ask if anyone had the solo shot, because I'll be both in football Saturday and Greedy Sunday.
Steve has it, so just,
Really, Sunday.
No.
Derek can take it up.
You'll-
Derek
you'll-
or Brewer.
For what, the seven?
I can take it.
You want to use that as a seven?
Go for it. It's 25 games.
You got a green? Saturday's a
Actually, that might not be the best thing for seven because of the power issue.
Because you have a long cord. Yes.
There's no electric up there.
You had mentioned like liability, so what level of liability are referees? I mean, you said goalpost pads, I mean, if they don't have them, I know no game, but I'm just wondering from a liability standpoint, CFDP's big thing, like.
Yes, if there's an injury on the pitch, and the legal guys coming in that want to sue whoever whoever else was around, which means the other 29 players, and they find non-registered players in the field, the liability is who has deep pockets. Now, if you don't have any money to start with, it's no big deal, but a lot of guys here have at least some.
What?
So, you know, it depends on how this.
Mark 13,
Now,
24.
I kind of remember,
Especially when we made a statement at RMR Rugby that this will be done, and if we're not following the guidelines that our society put in there, then we're more liable.
Should the match organizer be said, you know, making sure that's.
As far as compliance for are they SIPP, are they this, are they that, that can go back to the leagues and the union. That's what NASCO does, that's what a lot of folks do. So we need a list of 23 names, preferably with SIP numbers. I don't think that should be a drop dead requirement, but 23 names for both of the teams. And if you all of a sudden find that person isn't listed on the SIP, when you go and fill in your match reports, well, that's a different issue, and that goes back to the union to enforce. That shouldn't be us and things we need to worry about. Get the 23 so that you don't have to sit there and ask, who was it who punched little Billy in the face?
Fair enough? Schedule.
One other thing on treasurer. So I've been working with Gore on collections. We're down to two teams still not paying up. Air Force Men's and Grand Junction still. I had a rather good conversation with Doug at Grand Junction and basically told him that if he doesn't pay by Wednesday, he's going to get all his late fees, which will almost double his bill. So
What's the status of Air Force? Are they still trying to work it through?
they're still trying to figure out which way
It's a government system, what do you expect?
I don't understand how the women can figure it out in a short time and the men never figure it out. So
for what it's worth, we're
I got that
What was telling you?
5 to 15 years ago, I got this.
Yeah, it's always been the same. I mean, the women always have it together and the men never get it in there. And they always say they never budgeted for it, and it's, I don't know, it's a mystery all the time, so.
It's true.
All right, schedule. We continue to be in an all hands needed situation for the next few weeks, so if you're available and haven't made that known on the availability sheet, please do so. Because things certainly do come up.
Yes, but her heart rate can't get over 160.
We said we're gonna get George segues so that they can run right out there.
So Karen, we just need to get you a super Segway.
Okay,
In 8 weeks, that's right, just have it and then just back to the field. That's the plan.
This is your first, right?
some little things. So far this season, we've covered 163 games. 24% of them have had coaches, 20% have had a team of 3. How are we doing in terms of, getting people matches above their grade versus at grade? 34% assigned have been above grade so far, so that's good. 40% right at grade and 26% below, so I think we're doing a pretty good job keeping people at the level of matches that their level suggests. Let's see, currently scheduled, we have 57 assignments on the books. Some more are going to come out probably within the next 10 minutes. So be on the lookout for those. 20% of those got coaches, 10% have a team of 3. So all through the season, we've been pretty happy with keeping the coaches out there, about 1 out of every 5 games. Other than that, Rugby Colorado playoffs are coming up soon, so pay attention to the AR stuff today. A lot of you are going to be either refereeing or ARing at that. Let's see, I think that's pretty much all I have. Anybody issues with scheduling, comments, concerns?
Can I make a quick comment? Is that all right?
Sure.
So I've been coaching a bunch of high school games, something I've noticed, and I think it's just a trend across. We just had the email get sent out, and it was on the Facebook referee page if you're not on it. But the whole issue with equipment and with shorts that had padding, the non-IRB, every single high school match I've been to, there have been players with that on. So if you're about to head into playoffs and all that, so if you're, I think it's going to be an issue. So if you have high school games leading up to playoffs, I would advise every single time I've been in the field, I notice it, and then the players are like, oh, no one said anything else. And this is not to say one referee, that obviously all of us have been doing it. So everyone needs to step it up. When you get there early. Look at everyone warming up. When you're doing the boot check, look at their shorts. You can see it. These guys are wearing full football undergarments. Like they're padded on their thighs, they're padded on their chest. It's not allowed. We just went through this whole thing. So you let it go 1 week, it carries over to the next. It makes the next guy look bad if they're saying, take that off. And some kids are like, oh, what about the underwear? Which is what I heard. So make sure. So as a group, everyone who's here, I think we should all be in agreement. We shouldn't let that happen because it makes us look dumb.
There are some shirts you can't wear that have side padding.
But it's gotta be IRB, you can check the tag, it's
Well,
got.
if it's made by a manufacturer like
got-
Gilbert,
right.
Kuga, that's fine, but if it's made by.
Karen's mainly talking about like the football gear,
Yeah.
and the shorts,
Yeah.
shorts with padding.
Some of
the
the,
knee-
I have some of the shirts have,
A lot of
I haven't seen
the,
them.
yeah, a lot of the knee braces, I'd say most of the knee braces that kids try to wear are not legal. So you have to tell them before the game, this isn't gonna work if it's right before kickoff when you're lined up saying, sorry, you gotta take that off.
Is anyone not
You need to
seeing the
sort that out.
PDF document that Derek and Kurt put out?
It has pictures and everything, like make
You
sure.
need to sort that out early in the game, or early before the match. It's probably worth sending out again.
Jim?
Which is a great segue to go to the gym with Colorado.
I just want to start out, that all got sent out to every coach in Rugby, Colorado. Good description of what they could and couldn't have. And then Mark sent me the PDF, and that got forwarded to every club. But a lot of them just simply aren't going to pay attention until they get called for it. And have no problem with going out and saying, hey, you can't play today. It'd be nice if somebody's got padded shorts to say, this is a warning. I'll make a note of it, even though the note probably won't go very far, but I'll make a note of it. And
You just have to take it
What?
off. You just have to take it off.
Well, again, start of the season I'm talking about. As we get later in the season, I'm happy to send another one out tomorrow and say from now on you won't be allowed to play. If you can't remove it, then you'll be able to be a spectator.
Bring your underwear.
Regarding leggings, pulling up your leggings does not count.
Correct.
Lose them.
Take them off,
Lose them.
and then have 5 people take them off. Or like, that's a you problem.
I got a couple more things. One, I'd like to say thanks to the society. We had a great turnout for the freshman, sophomore, 8th graders. We've ended up the last 3 festivals we've had more referees have volunteered than we had games. So we've ended up having 1 ref per game, which is, maybe a little overkill, but I think it's been good for some of the older guys getting back into refereeing and some of the newer ones to get a run. But it's been just a tremendous turnout, and wanted to thank you for that. So Joe and Paul have just raced in from doing it this evening.
Secondary comment there, Jim, thank you for organizing that. Big round of applause.
No worries. Next, I wanted to thank Steve Gore. Just a great job. I had put together something, our contract expired last year between Rugby Colorado and the Society. And I had put together some recommendations and sent them to the executive committee, and they just couldn't find time to get to it. I think Steve got tired of waiting. So he came back with a very comprehensive document, extremely well done. We spent about 3 weeks arguing over it, but finally got to the point where we've got a tentative agreement that looks good. Immediately go to $80 from $75 for the center referee, up to 85 starting next season.
Society collects stuff.
Yes. But he did say that would allow the payment to go to 50 now for Rugby Colorado matches. And he did ask me to talk about this a little bit, knowing he wouldn't be here. I think the other thing, there's some accountability, both for late notices on the side of Rugby Colorado, canceling games within a couple hours, we'll pay for it anyway. And on the other hand, if a ref either doesn't show at all, which we haven't seen much of recently. A couple years back, we had a lot of that, but very little now. But penalties for refs either not showing or coming, starting matches more than 10 minutes late. But basically, it's pretty much the same stuff we've been doing. There's still a provision for a B-side match less than 30 minutes. We would ask the referee to be able to stay back and do that. If you have something that you absolutely can't, then get in your car and go. It's not an obligation. But it is something I think as a society we would like to do, and from Rugby Colorado they'd like to see. They will be heavily encouraged if they have enough to play a B-side, to do a B-side, and that'll be full fee. But if it's just you've got an extra 8 players over there that didn't get a run, and to say to the ref, would you stay back for 20 minutes or 25 or even up to 30 and do another period, I think it's a great way to grow the sport, and that's a provision there too. Lastly, I'd like to talk a little bit. We've had a ton of cards that have been issued this season. It's funny, the girls' season went, I think we had 3 yellows all season, and this early in the season we've got 17 yellows and 3 reds. And again, we're all about safety, but we're also all about, we've got a ton of new coaches, we've got a ton of new players, and it doesn't do much good to start penalizing and hand out cards when half those kids are wandering around and have no idea what the hell they've done wrong. It's not good for the teams, and it's certainly not good for the game. It's not a good game to call or to watch or to play. And what I would really encourage you guys to do, and I know it's hard to, if you've been refereeing top teams, but to stop and explain to these guys, call both teams in, say, let's pat the scrum down. This is how you got to do it. This is what I'm looking for. And when you blow the whistle and say, okay, that's the second time you've done it, you're off. Stop, grab the kid, grab the 2 captains, explain to them what's gone wrong, and wait a minute while they go back to their teams and explain it to their teams. And I think we'll have much better play out there. That's all I have. I think, Tom, you had a comment on making sure that everybody gets the correct name of the player that's starting.
Yeah.
That can be very embarrassing for the disciplinary committee when we tell some guy that he's not going to play for 2 weeks. Yeah, I wasn't there.
On that last note, with greatest respect to what you said, I think you're absolutely right. Keep in mind, though, not to simply put off the fact, oh, they're high school kids, they're inexperienced, so therefore I shouldn't up my sanctions. One of the things that Mike Tolkien talked about at the national conference this year was that these high school kids are becoming the next Eagles. And we're doing a great disservice to them by not refereeing to the standard that international refereeing is being held to. So, here we're caught in a bit of a conundrum where we don't
Early
want
in the
to-
season though, we can
Right.
certainly coach.
Absolutely.
Referees,
hitting it down.
Well,
the
no, I-
referee is there to manage the match.
So where Mike's point was, not foul play. Foul play is clear and obvious. Everybody can see those incidences. Hopefully, everybody's dealing with them appropriately. We're talking about repeated infringements or purposeful infringements, cynical infringements near the goal line, stuff like that. So here in Rugby, Colorado, we're at a great place where we have teams that are super experienced, super well coached, and can have the rugby awareness to commit those infringements. At the same time, though, they're playing teams that are inexperienced and don't have that proper coaching and are just committing stupid penalties. So, I guess there's no right answer in this, but, perspective from Jim, take your coaching opportunities where they are. Perspective from Mike Tolkien,
Well,
prepare these guys because they will be the next Eagles. And
Well,
the best way they can learn is
and I
by
agree with that,
refereeing that
and you
standard.
can use, anybody in this room should know who the experienced players are on that field, and who the guys that are running around with chickens with their heads cut off. And if the experienced players are doing things repetitively or cynically, I agree with Brian.
And I do too. I think we carve.
If somebody that has no clue does it, then you coach them. And we should all be able to make those adjustments during a game, I would think. At least as we get more experience, so younger referees may not, but as we get more experience, we should be able to do that. And I agree. If you have players that are playing well, hold them to that standard. If you have players that are clueless, coach them. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, no, thanks.
You agree, Jim?
Completely.
Karen?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
Just, again, this is just from the last couple weeks of watching a lot of the high school games versus just, being in the middle. I definitely see, obviously, from the fall, actually reffing girls, and obviously now seeing the boys. The cards that I've seen, they have been for really dangerous play. And a lot of that goes back to you're saying new coaches, new players. So part of that is from an administrative standpoint, if you're noticing that certain teams every week, it's a pattern. This X team every week has 2 or 3 yellow cards for danger. I mean, does someone talk to them because it's clearly a pattern?
They do. I called the coach today.
Yeah.
I've had 3 yellow cards and a red card. What's that?
How is Charlie?
Charlie's fine. That's the coach.
Okay.
But called Charlie up and said something's not working at your practices.
Yeah.
This can't go on. It's wrecking your team. It's wrecking the game. You got to do something about it. I said, you want me to come to a tackling practice? No.
Right.
I begged him to say, we offer a service. If you use contact us, have a referee come. We'll come, no charge. Please get this. Please do this, because it's criminal.
Well, I'm also happy to suggest to the disciplinary committee that we make that a requirement, that somebody's got to come out there and run a practice for him, unless it stops.
I mean, Megan's got them in Aurora this week. In theory. I was like, oh, that's Mayville.
Well, the only reason I bring it up is the rest that I've seen, they do explain, look, this is a yellow card for X, you needed to wrap, there was no wrap, here's a card, so it's clearly explained.
Yeah, no,
And then like, the next play, it happens again, you're like,
Yep.
wait, he just? So it's not.
No problem with that. I think Tom hit the nail on the head, though. You see some idiot that's standing offside, and he's got no idea what he's doing. You go back and say, here's the last speed, here's where you're standing.
Right.
You need to stand back here. And most of the time, they really appreciate that. I mean, I've just come from calling a game where sort of backing them up and say, oh, geez, now I get it. Had no idea.
But I think your
Foul
suggestion
play is
might
the
be
most
helpful.
dangerous foul play.
But certain teams, I think if it's repetitive, even if it's just, I've had teams like
And
they're
Jim-
just yellow cards,
And
but,
Jim is trying to address that.
yeah. So good.
the thing in there as well, almost everybody in this room is at the C level trying to make B. And one of the biggest things about going from C to B is count your penalties, manage your penalty count, manage this, manage that, and try and get a flow to a game. You're not gonna make the B panel on a high school match. You never will. And so if it means that you stop that game quicker, as soon as you see the tackles start to creep up, before they come, in Mark's memorable term, before they become criminal in the impact, maybe that's what you need to do. I had Aspen, I had Central Terrace, and as they started to creep up, the whistle got quick, told them to bring it back down, and it never rose to a card level because you can manage that. So when we're seeing things begin to happen, that's when you really have to work that much harder as the ref to manage that game. That's when you really have to step up your game instead of letting them be idiots and whatever, uneducated as the case may be, and give them the penalty, give them the card, give them the whatever, which is right in law, but wrong in management. You want to make B panel on a high school game, it's by being able to manage that out of the game.
I just had two questions with regards to procedure. The question came up in a couple of games with regards to they wanted to play a B game, and there was a question of how many minutes could they play. So they had to, in one instance, they want to play 2 10s or something, or they want to play 2 15s, they go and play 2 25s in a league game, and I didn't really quite know what the actual number was.
Individual gets 90 minutes a day.
70 for high school.
An individual in high school,
70 per match.
70 per match, 90 per day.
I think that's right. 70 per day.
Rugby Colorado has.
However, for us to sit there with an abacus and figure it all out.
It was all to be done beforehand, and the two coaches were organizing how long they want to play the league match. And I was just curious what the numbers were.
Well, that has to be 30, it's 35. If they play 35, there's no tie.
Rugby Colorado has, if the coaches can't agree on something, it's 2 25s
Yes,
for the A
that's what
side,
they did.
2 25s for the A, 2 15s for the B.
What?
So anyway,
That's
it
what I
wasn't a controversy, the two coaches, they came to agree with it.
Okay.
I was a bit of a loss in terms of how to address that, but that being said, they all sorted out.
We're not.
I
The
mean-
other question was subbing Colorado, it's open sub.
Yeah.
Once you're sub 4, can you come back in?
Yep. So,
Okay,
For an injury.
You can, yes.
No, for an injury, or not at all?
For anything.
Or
Only for an injury.
Only for an injury.
Is that gonna continue?
If you're
through
subbed out, you
playoffs?
can only come back in for an injury. Substitute.
I think that changes.
So once you're out, you're out. Unless
Yeah,
somebody's hurt, they
Yeah, you can't go back in and out strategically.
No, this is youth rugby.
I think they can.
high school.
Jim, is that gonna change come playoff time?
And again, playoffs, there's not, once you're subbed out, you're gone.
Yeah.
And
You get your 8?
And I'm under the impression, I'll go back and check, I'm under the impression that it is open subs now.
So I thought it was unlimited, but not open.
It's
Sorry,
unlimited.
unlimited subs, yes.
It's not open.
So once they're out, they can't come back in for any reason other than a front row lift or
So
something.
front row, it's, well, you're right.
So it's not open, it's just unlimited subs.
It's unlimited subs,
It's
but
not
not
just
open
front row
subs.
though either.
Yeah.
U19,
I'm gonna
any
send
position.
that out.
I'll send that out there.
Okay.
For an injury.
That's how I did it.
We had all that one line, is it very clear?
I'll send something out tomorrow to everybody.
Are we good, Jim?
Yes, thanks.
I thought we had Ken.
Every game I go out.
Okay.
Next item.
Polos and tech tees should be on the store soon, like the 15th, I think. And then regarding the new tracksuits, I was told by our treasurer to hold off to the fall for ordering them. He said we spent about $10,000 on kits so far this year. I mean, now granted, we'll get all that back when we sell it all, but for some of that, so we had the kit buyout from the CC stuff. We still have an extra large tracksuit and one pair of large, well, who ordered the jacket? Just who ordered the jacket? That's right.
It was Chop.
The extra large, yeah.
No,
No, the large.
So
Maybe
if
throw it
a
in the water
referee is an extra large, Gary Hartzell should order that jacket, and jacket and pants, I had one bad thing about it, it's getting sold all over the country, there's people in Vermont ordering it, and people all over the country ordering it. So, yeah, so, I think your window is closing to get either your allotment from last year, but if you've done 5 credits, you'll get to do it this year, you get $50. So.
Can we get
Now
more
they have
bags?
What's that?
Only thing sold out.
Are they sold out of bags? If they're sold out of stuff, just let me know. We gotta, yeah. And there's something you would like up there that you
Not a
think.
thing.
Yeah. But Mark Huff is the purveyor of all the stuff, he's the master of coin.
Quartermaster, I like quartermaster.
So if you ask me for a law book or coins or flags, what flags are there?
Some octopus, that's going to be right there. RDO stuff, Stu already went over the numbers as far as folks getting coached. Has anyone felt they are not getting coached and they want to be? Shut up, Chef, you don't count. Neither do you. Don't get broken, you get coached.
At the slopes.
Good. To the folks, this is kind of treading into Joe's world. To the folks who have been doing coaching, whether you're like an official coach and unofficial coach because of being pregnant, or just hanging out watching somebody for the B-side game when you do the A, reports have been pretty universally really good and have been getting really good feedback. So keep up that work, especially for the senior refs who are taking that extra time. I know I learned the most when I was heading up from watching other referees, hearing from other folks that were doing it, not necessarily hearing from, at the time, who weren't necessarily the best coaches. I think we've got that corrected here in Colorado, which is a great thing. So that's the RDO stuff. Any questions for me? If you do not have a coach and you want one, answer that email I sent out at the end of last meeting, because I've had 2 people answer that, saying here's what I want my goals to be, here's what my strengths are, here's what my weaknesses are. 2 people, they both have coaches now. So if you're looking for a coach and you don't have one, you're wondering why.
Did you get my email this weekend?
Okay, yeah. You've given me 2 days to get you one, thanks Ryan. You're a month late, I'll go ahead and
We
get you
only
one.
had to do 2 assignments, so.
Exactly. So there we go. Anything else on RDO stuff? In that case, moving to AR presentations. We have got, can you, I don't want to touch that because I'll break something there. The AR presentation, and we'll do the video as a practical application at the end. Those of you who were in Aspen saw a slightly different version of this. As we're heading into championships, we've got collegiate sevens with like 30 people we need. We have the national championship series here at Glendale at the end. We're going to have Serevi. Really becomes really important to be a good AR. For the folks who are on the national panel who have gone out and been in other societies, the rumor is they haven't been impressed. We need to make sure that we are continuing to raise our game, and it's a great way to stay involved with it. It's a great way to continue to contribute. So one of the biggest pieces of this, finding the hidden offenses. What is it that we've got going on? Library, can I just hit that down button? So probably the biggest thing, when are we helpful as an AR? When does the referee need us?
They can't see what just happened.
They can't see what just happened. When else? Those of you who have AR, when does the referee talk to you or ask you a question or anything like that?
In goal.
In goal?
Plays moving away.
Downtime.
Plays moving away from them? Foul play? What else?
What goes out and touch.
Downtime.
Going out to touch, yeah. So the first one, touch kicks a goal. Pretty common. The offense is the tackle ruck maul, and they can't see something that's going on there. Foul play. The offside line.
We can't see through you.
Through me. Let me move this over. Don't touch it. Oh, things broke. That's right. And here at the very bottom, nobody even really mentioned this, to knock on the forward pass. In all the times that I've refereed for Zap for summer, or AR for Zap summers, whoever, maybe once a game. Is that forward? And that's more of a, I think that is, do you think that was too? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and blow that. All the rest of it's, all the other things are going on there.
Or the last one when you're going, whoop.
No?
Lay on, flat out, okay.
And that gets to exactly what it is. It's clear and obvious, because I thought it was forward. I'm looking at Brian. Brian's like, it's backwards. I'm like, okay, my hands are back down again.
For the record, it's forward.
And later in the game,
Good on you, good on you.
later in the game, the exact same thing happened with the Barbos. Exact same flat pass. Hands didn't go up, arms didn't go up, nothing went up, because I already knew Brian was going to make that call if he was going to make that call. So the biggest piece of it is the clear and obvious. If you said, oh, no, that was a non-con, you've just sold the referee out. He has to make that call. So make sure that it's really there and it's really impactful. So one of the biggest things with this is anticipating the need. Brian, you said that you need the AR when you aren't seeing something. Why, as a national panel referee, would you not have seen it?
Well, lots of reasons. Could be screen,
Okay?
could be scanning, miss something, could be blind. Very, very possible.
Puffing and puffing. Yeah. Some of the big ones are, what's the referee looking at? Is he got a pile of people in front of him? And so, what are they looking at? What if they're looking out there, scanning something, trying to catch an offside line? What could they be missing? Hand in the rough. What else could they be missing if they're looking at the offside? Little knock-on, picking it up. They miss a punch. That ever happens. And probably the best one in here, what would the really crafty players do? How many of you guys watch Super 15 rugby every weekend? Nearly every weekend. How many of you saw the Waratahs Brumbies game last weekend? Rock, 5-meter line, has it nice and set up, and all of a sudden, you see the ball roll out the side of the rock.
That was crafty. It was.
How did that ball suddenly go rolling out the side?
Rotation of the ear.
No,
Must have been rotation of the ear. But that's the kind of thing, the referee's busy trying to make sure these guys are on side, so you get a nice clean clearance kick, there's somebody, what would the sneaky player do? That's what you should be thinking as an AR. If you're never a sneaky player, watch a lot of Super 15. And so, the other thing in here, what's the referee thinking about? What are they giving up to be able to go ahead and do that? And that, as an AR, is what you should be paying attention to. If he's checking the offside, you need to be checking the hands in front. You need to be checking the dirty stuff. See if that. When's the ref need help? Tackle rock ball.
What's on your side?
When's to your side? They're on the other side. So opposite side of the ball. When else?
They're not looking at the offsides.
If they're out looking at the offside. Or if they're staring at the ball, what do they need help with?
Outside.
Checking the outside line. What else? I mean, how many of you want an AR at the Nationals? How many of you want an AR at the Sevens? These are the things you should be actively thinking about. These are the things that you definitely need to be able to bring into your game. Rescue help, ball on the far side, breakaway play, when it's running away from, we heard earlier. Managing something else in the game, managing the offside line. Players away from the ball. If the scrum half starts sending that ball out, where's the referee going? With the ball. What's that flanker and the lock going to be doing down on the ground on the other side of that rock? Yeah, discussing the weather.
Helping each other.
Yeah, helping each other.
Like good sports.
And so that's one of those big things. When we talk about sevens, we always hear about, lead, follow, trail, or whatever they're calling it. If you're the trailing AR, you have to be so switched on during the game. And we're going to see some other examples of it, but this is one of the biggest ones. Tom and I see it a lot with sighting because that's when you see the foul play happen. Ball's gone away, referee's gone away. A bad AR is like, oh wow, the ball's gone, they're playing, and there's two people having a fight right there in front.
AR has gone away, and then they
punch to the face.
So, speaking of which, foul play. Where does it happen? And there's a bunch of different times where we can see this. What, well, yeah, between the touch lines, sometimes on the other sides of it in the end goals. With a kick, this is an open field kick. You can get hit late, you can get hit up in the air. So as an AR, what should you do? If you're the trailing AR, what should you be doing on a kick?
Stay behind, watch.
Stay behind, watch what's going on. If you're the lead AR, what should you do?
Get to a line where the ball's gonna come down.
Get to where the ball's going to come in. Do you look at the ball?
Watch where it's gonna come
The
down.
ball will come down whether you're watching or not.
Well, I'd love it to know where it's going.
You need to know where it's going to be
I
at.
can tell you.
And then what should you be paying attention to?
Offside players.
Didn't either.
Worry about the trailing AR should be worried about offside players. Within the 10 meters, gotcha. So everybody knows if you're within that 10 meters, you need to be getting out of there, so that's a good one.
Contest in the air.
The contest in the air. What about the lifters? Somebody coming down, this not as much, but for the obstruction or for being taken out. Because what's the AR going to be, or what's the ref going to be taking a look at? He's going to be looking at that ball, he's going to be looking for a knock, he's going to be looking for that contest, how are they coming in? Somebody comes in with a cheeky elbow right underneath and takes out a lifter, cheeky elbow takes out the knee. That's the thing that the ref might miss because he's paying attention to where the ball is, where that contest is. With the restart, exact same kind of thing. There you definitely need to be looking to see, is that supporting player, is that lifting player being taken out? The ref's going to be taking a look to see the contest in the air. Is it clean? Is there a knock on? Is there something like that? You need to be looking where the referee isn't. Open play, again, as the play's moving away from you, you have that heightened responsibility to look for the late hit. How many of you, let's say, Sharks, Brumbies, this weekend, Sharks, Crusaders. And you see the late hit on, or it wasn't even the late hit, it's a pretty solid hit by the 13 on the 14 from the Sharks, and just shatters him on the contact after that pass. How many of you saw the shoulder charge immediately after it? I missed it. Then you're sitting here watching the video replay, you're like, oh wow, that's way worse than the other hit was. And you're so caught up because you saw what could have been a problem and wasn't, that you miss that next stage. So you've got to be able to make sure you're looking after the pass and seeing what's going on with it. Any questions about those first three? Tackle, run, maul, obviously, you have a lot of opportunity because people are flying in at speed. And that's the one, what's the referee going to be paying attention to at the tackle and transition?
Quick ball.
Tackler, tackle release, quick ball, tackle assist. Is he worried about somebody taking exception and dropping an elbow after a tackle? Is it really that much of a move? Is he probably going to see that? That's what you should be worried about. You don't need to worry about hands in, you don't need to worry about the knock-on. The ref's worried about that. But look for those little elbows. They happen a lot. Final piece there, one of my favorite places, behind play. When you sit there and see everybody running through, getting back behind, make sure that if you're trailing that play, it's moving away from you, keep your eye open. Don't become that vacant AR. Don't become, you've disappeared. Ask yourself, what's the referee going to see? And then you look for everything else. Any questions on that? Final piece there, anticipate the foul play. Is there an angry match? Is there an angry player? We all know who angry players are.
Angry referee.
What's that?
Angry referee.
Angry referee. Sometimes you have that. Wait, why is Navy on here? No. But if I were to say Denver Highlanders, you would name two people. If I were to say Denver Berries, well, you would name a person. If you're going to name Glendale, there's a couple people there too. You're going to have the angry match, you have the angry play. The people who are more liable to try and take things into their own hands. Those are the folks you watch. Going with it, the tackle, run, maul. Big leading indicators. Somebody buried at the bottom. Late and arriving players. If you're coming to a ruck late, nothing good happens after the third person arrives at a ruck. All there is to it. folks are hanging out on the fringes. That's where you're gonna see somebody say, you know what, I'm gonna clear this guy out, and that guy's gonna say, I'm gonna punch you for clearing me out. Long rucks and malls. The longer a ruck takes, more likely somebody's going to get aggrieved in there. Same thing with a mall. People will be coming around the sides, people will be doing stupid things in there, someone will try and fix it. These are the things you really want to look at, and the most important one in my mind is the setting commissioner, the exposed or defenseless player. You see somebody down there and you see a player, it's like, you know what? I haven't kicked somebody in the head for at least a season, so I'm gonna do it now. Look for those exposed players, look for those defenseless players, because that's where the cheap shot artists are gonna take their opportunities. And those are the ones where people genuinely get seriously hurt. Yeah.
Two thoughts that what I like to tell my ARs are, flag it even if you think I've seen it. One thing is you have the gift of perspective. You know, sometimes the referee's right on top of it. If somebody gets taken out in the air and you're a few meters away, it's really hard to judge the impact, the severity of it, the intent, all that. So the AR, however, 20, 30 meters away, can see all that very well. So that's a huge gift in those scenarios. And then the second one is trust your gut. We've all been around rugby for a long time, and if you know what foul play looks like, it feels like. So if it feels bad, looks bad, it's bad, and flag it. Just back yourself in those instances. Nothing's worse than a little bit of foul play that you just let slide. You know, and it happened last weekend. Comment at halftime was, well, a guy just like deliberately stepped on a player on his arm. You know, he looked at him and then stepped on it, but I didn't think it was that bad. It's like, does it look bad? Does it feel bad? Is it foul play? Flag it. I'd rather us all get something right than let something small escalate into something way big.
Foul play is a player's call, it's not a free play.
Questions about any of that? Already pounded on the lead and the follow with open field. Same thing here, watching the lifters for the kicks and the lineups. I mean, if you're looking at these areas in a game, you're probably going to catch the majority of foul play. The hidden stuff. The really obvious stuff, I mean, it's just, everybody's going to see that. Going through with offside, this is some of the stuff we touched on a little bit earlier there. You have three big areas where you have the offside. Don't need to belabor it. But again, ask yourself in each case, what's the referee looking at? And if the ref's looking at the breakdown, I need to be looking at offside. If the ref shifts and he moves out there, he's happy with the ruck, now you shift back to the foul play of that ruck because you're starting to get to that long ruck stage or that opportunity for players to start getting aggrieved in that. And so you transition at almost every breakdown between, can I help him get people on side and create space if they do have a quick ruck? Or if he's having to manage or she's having to manage that, how am I managing the breakdown for the foul play form? Same thing in open play and same thing in kicks. Do beware if you're the trailing referee, you should be able to keep a good eye out. If I see a kick coming and I'm trailing the ref, or on the trailing side of that kick, I'm going to double check and make sure everybody, or at least one winger, is coming on side. So that I know that he's going to be bringing, or she's going to be bringing everybody on. And so that's one of the things that I think about in kick as a ref for offside, or as an AR. And then the other part, like Tom said, as you're arriving, and if you're there and you see that kick coming in, you can help clear the folks out of the 10-meter area so that the ref can go ahead and focus on the contest for the ball. When does the ref miss it? For offside. Ball-centric, especially if you have, like when we get some of the high school stuff, where you have some junior referees who are going to be doing some of those higher level matches. By junior, I mean C2 as opposed to B panel or national panel. And a lot of folks are still really ball-centric at the ruck. They're not taking a look out across the entire field. That's where you can really help that referee see what's going on in the game. Dealing with other issues, the other higher level match, you have 15 people who want to compete with each other one way or another. Maybe the ref's dealing with that and they want to get the game going. Same kind of thing, grab a pound pattern. If you're watching somebody, it's just Smash it off the rock, smash it off the rock, smash it off the rock, smash it off the rock. What's the referee gonna look at? Smashing it off the rock. Does it mean the backs aren't gonna be creeping up offside? Probably because they're lazy, because they haven't been getting back with each of those rocks that's moving back each 2 meters. That's where you can really help them ref out by moving. Questions about any of those?
This may show up in a bit, but ball hooked against the head, the backs on the putting in team, what do they do invariably?
Rush the line.
Yeah, ball hooked against the head, they're coming up to that last foot.
I didn't have that one, that's a good one.
Yeah, so ARs can help with that too.
Another one is penalty, getting back 10.
Right.
That's a huge one.
Get that. Upfield assist, three scenarios here. If you're and this gets to if you're the trailing referee in a lot of ways, or the trailing AR in a lot of ways. If you can do this while it's kicked to your side, it's great. Where's the mark if it's out on the full? The ref's gonna have an idea, but if you're the trailing AR and you see that kick going off, you know the kick's going that direction, you know, you're like, I don't have to worry about that. I know where it's gonna go. You know? And so it's like, okay, restart's gonna be on the 10 meter. And then if it does go out on the full, it's dead easy for them to be able to go ahead and say, hey, great, you're right here, I've got your mark, radio it in, call it in. Same kind of thing with inside or pass back inside the 22. If the play is away from you, mentally you should be thinking, how can I be best contributing? And probably one of the best ones on those is that pass back to the 22. That same Sharks Crusaders game this past weekend, they have one, everybody goes all the way up, kick goes through, and then they all sat there and realized, it's not like, oh wait, that got passed back in. And they had to trot 50 meters back down the field. Probably called in from the far side of AR, because both the ref and the near side AR missed it. Same kind of thing, advantage and stoppage. Like if there's an injury, if there's an advantage, what's the call? There have been times, I never say that Brian's ever asked me for that, it's like, what are we doing to restart this? Might have happened once after an injury. What's the call? Where's the mark? Just have that in your mind. The ref's busy dealing with 30 other things. It's easy for you to keep those in your mind and get it done. Any questions on those?
Same thing with kick over the dead ball line.
Same.
Same as the touch.
Clear and obvious, you'll hear from every national panel referee, every high-level ref. Nobody wants to come out there to watch the referee play, or to referee the game. A few exceptions there, take a look at. PR, Rose Mom. One of the big things you have to ask yourself, and especially if you're trying to become a better referee, what impact did this offense have? Sure, maybe they went into the side of the rock, the ball was already moving away, they didn't do anything about it. Could you blow your whistle and say they came in the side? Sure. Could. Did you need to? Is it a management issue because you're having a lot of foul play and a lot of side entry? Maybe. But that, as an AR, that's not really your job, that's the referee's job. So, what impacts does the offense have? Is it clear? Is it obvious? Did the referee ask you for it? And if not, yeah. You'll see ARs doing it. It's terrible. So the ref's like, what am I going to do now? You either make the AR look like an idiot and lose all trust, or you just made the ref look like an idiot. And the players all lose trust. The big exception, Brian already hit on this, is foul play. Put your flag out. Keep it out. Even if you think they see it. Even if they're scoring a try. Keep your flag out there. You can still come back to a yellow card after the try's been awarded. Remember to keep your mark. Remember to keep what the offense was. Make sure you get the number. But there have been times where you've seen it. PRP matches out there. Flags out, tries awarded, thank you very much. Hold on the kick for just 1 second. Number 3, come here, and off you go. Yeah, for once, going after the tight ends these days. Yeah. Yeah, you're going to see that. It's going to be the penalty try for the high tackle. Any questions about it? It's a good call. Oh, that's a good call. Let's start going. questions about the clear and the obvious. We say this all the time, does anyone not know what clear and obvious means? You should be able to poll everyone in Denver County, and they will have seen that offense, but the referee, before you make that call. That's what it needs to be like. So with that, just quick final thoughts. As an AR, as a team of ARs, you're 2 extra sets of eyes. Use them to the best extent. You don't need your eyes going where the referee's eyes are. Get the number. And most importantly, remember that you're assisting, not refereeing. Questions about this? Yeah.
Yeah, the last bit, assisting, no refereeing, how much verbalization comes from the ARs at tackle run? And will that confuse the players because now they're hearing different voices?
Derek?
We shouldn't be talking at all. Ideally, most of us, and I'd say anybody in this room that's refereeing would probably want the same thing. You want one voice as far as the breakdown. Yeah, it's really just unnecessary.
Brian?
I definitely hear a lot of the national consensus is don't talk to the players. That being said, I've been on both sides of the equation. I see why they say that very clearly. I've had ARs that are just shockingly talkative. But at the same time, I do find it's helpful to help create space. I got your 10 here, you're talking to the winger right on the first opportunity. Who knows, penalty late in the game, on the goal line,
Yeah,
creates
well,
extra space. But at the breakdown,
Breakdowns.
100%.
If you, yeah.
Breakdowns to referees,
Yeah.
the
During the game.
only 2
Bedtime.
reasons you come in as an AR at the breakdown are as if there's very clear and obvious foul play or very clear and obvious infringement. Referee scanning that ball's out some reason. Those are it. Otherwise, breakdown, more or less, referees 100%. Last foot on a maul or something, and right there, great opportunity to just talk to one individual, but not to referee.
I was gonna say, for those of you who end up AR in one of these national tournaments, something that I found was really helpful is every single ref, like if you hold these guys, they're gonna want different things. I've had some refs that say, I don't want anything. Do not give me anything unless I ask for it. I literally do not talk to me. Fine. Don't talk to them. Others are like, you know what, I want you in my ear, because they want, affirmation that what they're doing is right. So they want you to talk to them. So before your game, you might want to go reach out to them and just say, on your AR, in your next match, is there anything specific you want me to look for? Is there anything you want from me? Let them direct the call. Because you're going to find between Mark and Zach, they may want different things, and it might be different for each game. One they may say, we don't want anything. The next game, they're like, you know what, for this match, for sure, I need you to help me with all sides. And then they give you your job.
If you can
Especially
sing
the
some
tournament.
good reggae tunes too, you can bump yourself up on the list on my
What's our
It's a true story.
Oh.
But yeah, there's, and you may catch that on the chin doing exactly what the referee says. I know I had one Super League match where they said, you will not make a call. Literally, he was the only person in Observatory Park that missed the forward pass. And they said, why didn't you call it? I said, you told me not to. And they screamed at me for not making the call. So, you got...
If you do.
Yeah.
You get what you asked for.
Yeah, that's exactly what they
All
got.
things considered,
No way.
a lot of us have traveled all over as referees with ARs in other countries and plenty of other states, and Urfu, Rocky Mountain Rugby, I mean, by far the best. Like, hands down, so comfortable working with a lot of you.
I think
It's
100% true.
So, I mean, Vegas, Weaver was reffing,
SoCal's the worst.
So I moved.
That's right. It's like
NorCal's so much better.
I was watching Weaver ref a PRP game in Vegas at the LVI.
Yeah.
That was it, on back. Olympic, yeah, that was it. And it was, you were on the line, you and Gore. This game was 100 miles an hour. It was so heated, 500 plus spectators. It was crazy. And contested every breakdown. And I see Weaver, and Weaver's like not in his dream Weaver state. You can see he was up there trying to cope and and he got a grip on it, figured it, the game never got out of reach. He did a great job. And afterwards I asked him, he came back into the referee tent, now he had the AR for the international 7 stuff, but just seeing him online, I was like, how good was it to have Gore and Goldhammer on the line? And he was just like, man, it was like the saving comfort. You got your people in your corner, makes a huge difference, so well done.
So I think the short version to your answer.
Gil.
Short answer to your question is, you do what's best.
Gil, where's the mark? Where's the mark, Gil?
Practical exam for the ARing that we just talked about. We're gonna have about 10 seconds of play. Count the offenses. What do you see?
Wait, what are you talking about?
Actually, we have about, no, leave it right there. We have about 15 seconds of play. Count the offenses.
Can you maximize that?
Make it big for the old people in the back.
Excellent.
The old people in front.
Yes, you have. Yes, there's a reason why I pulled this clip. Stupid Vimeo.
There's the download button.
Look how the download all the clips I can do. You see, it's nice. You get it in slow motion too. It's like being a signing commission. You get to slow it down, review it.
I think Oak Club won this.
No, they didn't.
Why? I think they won again.
First offense, referee were paying for the red team.
I know, right?
Alright, so hit pause right there. So what all did we see in that 11 seconds? Excuse me, 21 seconds. I need to do math better.
Well, there was a man on the ground.
It looked like 7 could have rolled. It's hard to tell.
What was it? What happened when, who was holding who and what was doing what?
Green was on the ground and was holding the pink player from.
Was holding the red player.
Or red.
Okay. What'd the red player do? No, he elbowed him 3 times in the head.
Dropped him.
How many of them saw it 3 times?
No, let's play it again.
I can't see it.
It's right over here.
First he was holding, he deserved it, so.
What else did we see in there? What else did we see? Guy got a citation for it.
You didn't see, nobody saw somebody stomping on somebody.
Yeah, it was a knee right there at the end of there.
No.
It was a full boot.
Listen, if Mark can ask for his computer.
It's video, man.
If you minimize it again, will it work?
No, it's a really crappy.
Personal place of my old back.
I'll trust you. Stop.
And here's the thing. It's a C1 referee who's ARing, and was Aruna #1 at some stage? No, okay. But a top 5 national panel ref in the country. Still up there. And none of this gets seen. You have any luck with that, or are you just gonna check on your?
I'm trying to
In all the,
get Wi-Fi.
it goes to Gilligan's point of like, sometimes it's right in front of you, but if you're not paying attention.
Call it out.
There it is.
So try and pull it back to.
Oh, that's all right.
Well, that really couldn't be any less right in front of the air. What is there to be watching, other than the 2 guys who are 5 feet from you?
You're watching the ball.
You have to look at them to watch the ball.
So,
That guy's surprisingly fine for just getting.
So the first one's right here.
He looked at me.
So it's here.
I fixed my head.
These are all standard right there.
You ready to go? Brad, you ready to go?
Yeah.
So anyway, elbows, stepping on people, it's right in front of you.
Any, yes, no?
Step on people.
There it is.
Right.
All right. My thoughts on Scrum. I'm gonna whip through a lot of this, and then I'll send it out so you guys can take your time to read anything you want or ask questions. Basically the approach is looking over the game management guidelines and then just thinking of a couple scenarios, and I'll ask a few questions, and we'll try to think of some common sense solutions for what otherwise could be some Scrum problems. So, firstly, probably one of the most important things about Scrum is that the purpose is to restart play quickly, safely, and then fairly, right? Think about those words in order, and obviously consider quickly as part of it. I feel like oftentimes we put so much pressure on ourselves as referees to just, get it right, and you're thinking of all the cheeky things the front row can do. And the purpose of this presentation is this, trying to tailor that way of thinking, and instead look at it as a way to restart play, and maybe simplify it into setting yourself up for success for what could go wrong, and maybe making it a little more obvious when it does. I'm going to just really quickly breeze through this because we all probably know it all. Actually, you guys can read it on your own time. We're going to do the fast way through it.
Great job, Brad.
Pre-game chat. Who wants to volunteer and give their pre-game chat? Actually, I'm going to pick somebody cold because I want two people to do it. Why don't we get, how about Deke and Mark? Deke, why don't you start and tell us your pre-game chat with front row. So you arrive, you bring whatever the captain and the front row together. First of all, my question is, who do you invite to that conversation?
Sure, front row and scrum half.
Front row, scrum half. Okay. And just one team or both teams or what?
Usually, yeah, I do it when I check booths on the side. So
Okay.
just one team.
All right, so you got front row, scrum half together. What do you say to them?
Just remind them of the sequence.
Go ahead, no, just
sure.
pretend we're the front row here and just give us your spiel.
All right, yeah. So Mike, is anybody's first match is the front row? Make sure we got some experienced players. And I say, just remind them of the sequence: crouch, bind, set. I say that it's 3 distinct phases where before I move on to the next one, that we need to make sure you complete the one I call. I remind them of their binds, make sure they get them on the sleeves, a good high bind up on the top of the jersey, and then I'll pull the scrum out, wait till the scrum is stabilized, and I'll give you the go ahead to put it in the ball. So keep it pretty simple.
Nice. Yeah.
Do you have a roster?
Already taken care of. They should have that ready for you. Mark, your pre-game chat.
I'll get the front row and the front row eligible players and the 9 and the 9's backup. And I'll basically say, guys, it's scrum time. I'll make a mark on the pitch. Hookers just line up left of the mark and be about 4 inches away, and it'll give you the proper spacing for when I call crouch. When I call crouch, I need everyone's shoulders in a row, and I need you ear to ear with your opponents. After it's all good, I'll say bind. Please bind on your opponent's body. Maintain that bind throughout the scrum. Once all the binds are right, I'll say set. Set is your indication to come together. Please stay square and stable over the mark. Don't cock at 15. Don't put them on their heels. Once the scrum's square and stationary, I'll give the 9 a non-verbal indication. Well, it depends on what we're doing. I'll say yes 9 or non-verbal indication. It's your obligation to put the ball in straight. And then I go to get rid of the not 10s. I go, guys, if you're a team that likes to go quick at penalties for ruck, scrums, or mauls, the mark's buried and I tend to back away. So if you do want to go quickly, just go right behind the mark and give me a proper kick. Have a good. And it just basically eliminates all the not 10s. You just reset them, just go, no, the mark's there.
That's,
Any questions?
Move the ball out.
good.
We're listening.
It's good to get that perspective. I've been considering that process for 11 years now as a referee, and one of the reasons I wanted Mark to particularly tell his is because Mark seems to always have good compliance at scrums. Back when our old game system was there, you could see all the reports and all that very transparently. Mark was always the lowest on scrum non-compliances and scrum penalties, so obviously he was doing something right. Probably starts with that pregame, but then I'll ask him again, and maybe what you'll do in certain situations when something might come up. Just for perspective, my front row chat is pretty simple. I'll have the captain in there. The only probably difference, you guys might as well. Just because ultimately somebody needs to be accountable. You work with the captain, so sometimes it's good to have them there listening. But yeah, the only thing different I do is I use a little bit of hand gestures, sock puppets. Like I say, there's 3 separate calls. Each one has its own action, but they're all pretty simple. We all know it. I say on crouch. I give them very specifically what I'm looking for. Have a proper distance with your opponent, roughly temple to temple, so you'll be able to get a good bind on when that's there and keep it for the entirety of the scrum. I say what I'm looking for is that you're square as a unit and as an individual. Right? I use my hand gesture for the individual and as a unit. But it puts it in perspective, so if I do need to call it later, I can say, number 3, step up please, be in line with your team. Right? We've already known what that looks like. Once everything's square and steady, I'll call a bind. And I just tell them, make sure you bind on the back, just like you guys both said, not on the opponent's arm, right? Once everything's square and steady, that's the theme of the conversation, then I'll call set. Set's your indication, you can engage the scrum, but keep in mind you have to hold your drive until the ball's in. Right? Again, once it's square and steady, then I'll tell the scrum half, I'll look at him, I'll point to you or tap you on the shoulder, let you know it's okay to put the ball in. Just make sure it's straight. Right? That's it. Any questions? Once the ball out, that's always the question. But nice perspective, but if you think about that. So bigger picture stuff is before each scrum, you have a liberty that you don't have in a lot of other areas in the match, and that's a moment to breathe and think, and maybe get some preemptive work done. So usually the questions that I like to consider is the bigger picture questions, like ultimately asking what's about to happen next at the bottom. So a series of questions are whose ball is it? Where are you located? What's happened in the previous scrum? What's the score at the time? So I want to imagine a few scenarios and ask you guys what you think. So imagine, so imagine there's a scrum, let's just say 5 meters, attacking, right? And let's say white and black team. White team's ball, so they're attacking 5 meters. What do you think the white scrum's going to try to do?
Tight head wheel.
Well, even before that, engagement, what's that?
Tight head drive, tight head wheel.
Tight head? drive a wheel? Or what's
Push it that way, move the flankers away from their backs.
What are they gonna try to accomplish? So you're saying now, tight end, drive a wheel, so they're gonna try to
Yep.
turn, and what will that accomplish?
That makes the,
Move that
that
flanker
moves the
away.
flankers away, moves the scrum half away, and gives the 8-man a pretty clean shot at the goal line,
Puts
as well as
bodies
splitting the backs.
in the way of the opponent. Nice, yeah. I mean, generally, even beyond the cheeky stuff, they're probably gonna want like a pretty stable ball, aren't they? Because they want nice, clean ball for them to hopefully score. If they're cheeky, they might want their 8-man to peg and put themselves in a better
Push over,
position.
try.
What about that same scenario defensive team put in?
Wheel it away from their backs.
Sure, but let's say they're not super experienced, what are they gonna want first of all?
Stable platform.
Just as stable as possible. What's the attacking team gonna wanna do? Yeah, how are they gonna try to do that?
Put them on their hit early.
Yeah. Also, so obviously we know, that's what it sounds like, and I'm sorry, same question, attacking scrum, what's the defense gonna try to do? And that's.
Drop it.
I mean,
If we get pushed back, they're gonna.
wheeling is kind of dicey in that situation, you don't want to set them up for success. Dropping it probably seems like one of the easiest ways to be disruptive. You see all the time those stalemates where, tagging scrum collapse or standing up, right? All sorts of ways that there's disruption, and usually it ends up with one of our US players getting targeted. But either way, the answers sort of matter. The bigger sense is that that's an area to pay attention to, right? So imagine that situation and you know something could happen. What are some ways you can set yourself up for success to maybe change the outcome? And, some of it plays into this, and these are more rhetorical questions that you can think about when you're preparing your own games. But some tips and tricks that I've talked to other referees throughout the year are, you got a picture of Mark Nelson up here, before he cut his hair and shaved his beard. It's how to prepare.
Took his tattoo off.
So imagine the situation ahead of time. You're on the 5-meter, you got a 5-meter scrum, and all of a sudden you hear the defensive scrum say, I don't know, Maui Maui or something, right? They haven't made a call all game. All of a sudden they make some call now. You trigger that in your mind.
Something.
Right, there could be some shenanigans up here, right? So, by setting yourself up for success, there's a couple tips. One, imagine these situations. What are you going to do in these situations? What are you going to say when it happens? So a couple things, one of the things Mark talks about a lot are these first two. And first is slow everything down in those situations. Something might happen, the last thing you want to do is rush that conclusion. So by slowing things down, it gives you more time to explore what the outcome might be. Bringing them closer together just eliminates as many possibilities for them to be able to drop it or any other things. But the other thing is that I like to say is get in their heads. Be proactive on it. So you have a scrum 5. You know the defense is going to try to do something. So you bring together, crouch, bind, whip, blow your whistle. And you just get in their head, hey, I need you to straighten up a little bit.
So much for quickly.
Alright, so slow it all down. Now, you've just taken so much time. You told this guy needs to straighten out. Now they're all getting paranoid maybe. Starting to think, wow, this referee's paying attention to everything we're doing. Who knows? You might not see anything. You might just be going, well, shit. I'm just doing what Brian Zapp told me to do because it seems to work. But it does work. It works really, really well. Or, boop, no, closer. You two closer together on this side. Next thing you know, they're like, oh, okay. Let's see here, try to figure out what I'm doing. But either way, you're getting in their mind. Now they're no longer trying to focus as much at being disruptive, unsafe, or unfair in their next mode of play, but they're going to probably just try to scrum legitimately. Anyway, next scrum, now straighten up. Crouch. Bind. Set. Hold. Just pace, 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 so slow. These guys are working so hard, so paranoid that you are meticulously looking at their bind, and it's gonna get in their heads and be proactive against them cheating as much. You know, and it's not gonna work every time, but it's just a little tip and trick. And I guarantee if you go into approaching your scrummaging with some of these things on your plate, and it starts just here. It starts when I got a game on Saturday, Denver versus Belmont Shore. I know I'm going to be faced with certain situations like this. I ref Denver a couple weeks ago. I know what their props look like. I know, how they're going to react. So I can start to imagine these situations. I see the person's face. I see their body position. I see how they got blown up when I ref them the other week against Santa Monica. And I can start to prepare myself for these. Last thing I want to show you is a couple clips here. Some of them are actually I get run over in one, and there's some foul play we had to look at the screen that turned out to be okay. But just look, I'm only going to play a few minutes of it. Look at the bigger picture. Look at Santa Monica scrums when they have the ball versus Denver when they have the ball. And just observe a little bit. Is there a way I can sound on here?
Yeah, they're growing the commentators there.
You want the
Oh,
dulcet
no,
tones of Dan
it's the
Power
best
there.
part.
That's why we have to change the sound.
It's good in your setting.
Should invite them to the next one.
Have you tried to restart?
Who is he calling a little brody?
14. Call my wife, and the person says, they need to stop saying my name.
Hold on one
They
second.
need to stop saying it. But what are you talking
Brian from
about? They're calling me.
Yes.
Guys, just to revisit that little demo with Eric and Mark and Brian, the biggest difference I noticed, and you juniors pay heed on this, Mark and Brian, even though Brian was reading it, Mark and Brian knew what they were going to say. Mark has said it 1,000 times, and if I was a guessing man, I'd say that he said it the same way, or real close to it 1,000 times. Know what you're going to say going in. Practice it in front of the mirror.
A year ago, if Brian had pointed at me, I would have been terrified. Like now, it's like, bring it,
Right.
So it
Please,
happens
please.
really fast, like.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Good point. Somebody once told me, it might have been Gilligan, but I don't know if he's this smart. When you have a scrum or a line-out, it's the only time in the match where you have pretty much the only players you're refereeing in front of you, right? You have 16, if you count the scrum halves, you have 18 there, of the most prominent players in the match. I mean, let's face it, other than offside and a random penalty here and there, you're refereeing the total of 15s. So every time you blow that whistle at a scrum, you have all 18 eyes staring right back at you. So you better have something worth a damn to say at that point and have a decision made. Otherwise, they will break you. And then it starts at pregame though. Being prepared for that conversation. I went into Nyack and I walked into their locker room, talked to their front row, and these guys were giants. And I tried to do my hand thing, I had to quit because I was shit. I was so freaking nervous, but I'd done it 100 times before. So I did it, I got out of there and I walked out like, woo! That was a rush.
That's why
Time
you
to
love
go
the
see
sock
my-
puppets. They can't see you shaking with
Sure
the
you
sock
can't see
puppets.
the trembling hand, right? Alright, first ones, they're not in the best sequential order, but these are Santa Monica's.
Australian nugget. He feeds it in. Now comes Shane. Takes it to the line. Looking for his centre partner. That's Raish. Took it up there nicely. Supported by Shaw. Now they work off the short side. It'll count up on short. Pipers is through. Ghosting away. Oh, and he's dropped. Middle of the first half, 7-5.
This is a doozy, guys.
Look back for a week 9. Watch your spray tan Pipers. He's the left wing. He's looking to
Again, it's not a
Skip
sequential.
that one.
You'll see that.
Okay.
James Small, Invictus.
This is interesting, they're driving.
Yeah.
Great strike. Great drive from
Great
there.
stutter.
Coming off the side, not
Look
bad.
at the back line.
Watch out for that on.
Yeah, they just stay put.
Great strike.
Back to Gilligan's conversation. Lucky for me, I already had it in my mind. If I needed it, I'd go back to the penalty,
Still
which
the
I
Fox,
did.
they call it.
Your AR called in for you.
6 and 8 on binding.
Scrum time. Nice and solid again. Steady at the back. Go pick and go.
Anyway, he's starting to get a
Floored it
theme.
down. Oh, shit. Khalifa has absolutely floored it. It's a bone jarrer and it's a car crash. An absolute car crash.
believe
So
it.
the monstrous here. And I hope
That was a number 10 who threw that in.
doesn't affect him. You need to get this scrum though. You really need it. The ball's been so bad when they have same scrum.
This is weird, they turn around for number.
Say no, it's a great push. They do the right thing though. Virgil picks at the back. Flag advantage for a penalty though. Yeah, unbinding early. Again, he doesn't let it go with the quick tap.
Where do you take the tap?
The right line there to go
Yeah,
quickly.
front of the front of the knock off the nose.
Yeah,
So you're starting to get the picture of Santa Monica, very clean platform.
Winner of the Mark Nelson Award.
Get out of the road! I should have talked about positioning and stuff.
Oh, this is,
And bad call. I didn't call that penalty. Got rattled by the, You know, what's funny is, the forward pass there, one of the calls that I could have kept in my pocket, all these happen after scrums, which I didn't do particularly well at in this game. You'll probably see one of the reasons why I raised. Wow. Oh, is that okay? Oh, good call, but
Well, that's because Santa Monica decided that they needed to wheel it after destroying
yeah, let's show
Barbell
them
scrum
show them
all
all
first
our
half.
tricks.
Two of the probably worst scrummaging teams in the competition.
Actually, Brian, that might be a good one to pause for just a second.
well, here's the easy, I think.
Just right before that, you guys saw that first half. Santa Monica is just crushing the Barbarian scrum. First scrum in the second half, all of a sudden this thing just snaps around going against Santa Monica as if the Barbos had just like driven straight through them. It was such a clear indication of a whip wheel where Santa Monica was pulling instead of the Barbos driving. I mean, either that or suddenly the Barbos had the best halftime speech ever for how to scrum better. But it was just really clear that, you know, Santa Monica was just screwing around again.
Anyone happy with the tight end line?
And look where the loose side is.
That's a better scrum from them, believe it or not. Goes in wide, Pickelman breaks a tackle, can't get through the second one though, Pickelman dragged 5 out from wide. Needs to go to the left quickly. Here's Fletcher, the big man, he's rolling down the alley towards the
Supposed to score from that though.
Now we've seen a few Barbo scrums though, and we got a whip wheel on that one. The hooker ends up sitting on top of the locks on the next one. See him just pulling that.
As everyone down, full slices right through. Will he have the speed to get that try time? That's going to look great on the replay. Beautiful diversion from the centre pairing in the middle of the field. In Powder and Taylor, the lead by he picked.
Some reason it's out of place. It's in here somewhere.
Oh, well, that was loose as a short ball.
Genius stuff from him. Pickelman just breaking tackles again. Goes Denver's way. Walker throws a couple of dummies. He tries to get his runners in the right lines for him. Lets him go now. They're stacked out to the right. Khalifa, he'll drop himself to position. Apparently leads the league in HPSI, which is hand per square inch. talk about the pregame, Dylan. First of all, in the scrum, let's see what they've done during the week. They actually had
Count the feet.
2 weeks to tighten the
Count the
scrum
feet.
up. See that first look at the set piece. Goes straight away, deal the ball. It's a tight end, then they got the back. Wonderful stuff. That's the Washington. He picks up. Still runs it forward. Bowman.
Last time I saw one of those, it was still legal.
Now Shane, with a cut-out ball. Just yeah, but starting mixed races too sharp, of course. Then they need rolls here. Take a look at the depth scrum. Here we go. Let's see if they fix it. They can't again. Huge push from Santa Monica. And there, Deborah's going to get the penalty here. Looks like the lifting. Yep, driving up. But again, the dominance of the Santa Monica scrum is evident early on as they push the Barbarians back. Deborah do a slightly better job of keeping the ball in this.
So a couple things that when I was digesting all this, who said it? Was it Joe? Somebody said, when's the last time you saw that? All 6 front row feet off the ground. I mean, honestly, it's probably been 5 or 6 years since I've seen that. It was in a high school match. You know, super different managing that. Just weep right away. Everybody stays on the ground, right? It's rare. I talked to Moreno after this, and he's the one that sent me this Dropbox file of all the scrum videos, and he was like, "That's so weird." You know, he hasn't seen it in years, and especially at this level. Couple takeaways for me was that one where they all lifted up as the second scrum of the match, first Fargo scrum, and it was a clear and obvious infringement. Should have just nipped it in the butt right there. A couple things I noticed about myself, and Joe also pointed out in the report, is that I was standing so close to the scrum. I was so micro-focused on binds and angles of bodies and this and that early on that I didn't just step back and see the bigger picture for a second and realize that something more dangerous, clear and obvious infringement was in front of me, which was an obvious lifting by Santa Monica. So had I nipped that in the butt, it would have been a great opportunity. Instead, I did nothing. They ended up scoring, actually. A couple scrums later, next scrum, they actually collapsed it, which I penalized correctly. The scrum after that, they drove up again, which you just saw penalized there. So now we have 2 penalties in a row on Denver scrums, both against Santa Monica. I could have just nipped that first one in the butt. Things settled down for a little bit. Again, I just had to manage it from that point on. Until halftime, when we talked to the front row, basically a good conversation, and another great opportunity where you saw that one earlier of Moreno, who was 17 for Barros, getting lifted up, basically ended up sitting on his box backs. And I played through that one as well, where it could have been another good opportunity to just penalize it. We just talked about this at halftime. So obviously for me, I wasn't prepared for what I was about to see, which was lifting. I had prepared myself for collapsing, positioning, binding, all these sort of things, and by that point, by the time that infiltrated the game, I had to just react to it and catch up. And I was playing catch up the rest of the match. Whereas now, obviously, seeing it, I'm much better prepared for the future. I'll be proactive at dealing with it. So, that's really about it. I'll put this on. You guys can watch all the rest of the videos. The only thing I have is that it's probably helpful for everybody to see what the referee grading's at. I'm not sure how updated this is, given that it says it was last updated in 2013, but I'm sure the principles are essentially the same. It might be just good to see what your core competencies are being looked at as you're trying to referee beat in on C1 elements of the scrum. So hopefully this is helpful. Again, there's more technical stuff about how we're being instructed to manage the scrums. Definitely read through it if you haven't. It's also in the game management guidelines, and I'm available for any conversation at the bar or over email. Thank you.
Anybody
Wisconsin 46, Duke 39, halfway through the second quarter, second half.
Well, for everyone DVRing that.
That's right. Anybody else have?
Anybody else? Let's go with carry over. Move that we adjourn?
Second. Let's go.
Please take that stuff home.